Welcome back. Welcome to another edition of Nain Shorts, where we talk about training. We embrace the ideas of training and we try to push ourselves a little further. Okay, maybe not that serious. Hopefully, it's just entertaining at least, and I can bring up some ideas that you may have forgotten or just haven't thought about in a while. And it might help you train. It might, just entertain you for a little bit. But before we get into the topic of today, I just wanted to share this with everybody who's watching. And please, this is one of those things that you do want to share with as many people as you possibly can because it is a worthwhile cause. Now, very few times we get to do something that is both fun and actually helping somebody else. Unless you think it's fun to help other people, then you do that all the time. But this particular seminar is an Eskrima seminar that is being taught by our good friend Cjo Johnny Oliva. It is being hosted by Twin Tigers Academy of Self-Defense in Brentwood. Look out for the information. We'll probably put the poster somewhere on the screen, but definitely keep an eye out for that, because this time it's not just going to be a 4-hour seminar, Cjo teaching you Eskrima stick and basic blocks and attacks and that sort of thing, but all the proceeds are going to go to a young man by the name of Sean, who's on a journey to have his liver replaced. So yes, this is something that he needs done, obviously for very serious medical reasons, and the seminar is a part of how they're trying to gain the funds to be able to do so. So it is definitely a worthwhile cause. Cjo Johnny Oliva is a great instructor, not to mention profound amount of knowledge that's within this man's noggin. And if you haven't had a chance to play with him, or it's been a while since you've seen him, definitely make time. March 16th, it is a Sunday. I believe it starts at 10 a.m. so it's 10 to 2 for only $40. And again, not only will you have a great time, you'll get to learn some really good stuff from a well-versed man in the martial arts who's been doing it for quite a long time, but you're also going to be helping a family through one of the toughest times that they're going through. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Spread the word. Johnny Oliva, March 16th at Twin Tiger Academy of Self-Defense in Brentwood. So keep an eye out for that. Note the date, make space for it. We'll try to add some sort of their donation link as well if you can't quite make it, but it is definitely something that we need to come together and help this family out as best we can. So thank you very much for that. Now, talking about martial arts and training, someone once mentioned, a good friend Carlos, that he's a historian of martial arts. He trains with so many different martial artists, so many masters. He has his notebook, he writes down, he goes over his notes, he practices. I mean, he's an awesome example of what it is to be a diligent student in the art, not just any specific art, but all martial arts in general. He believes there's always something to learn, something good, and that's a great mentality to have. But he referred to himself as a bit of a historian. Like, he's jotting down names and people and lessons, and he wants to make sure that it gets carried on into the future, which is something we've talked about before in the reference of traditional martial arts and what benefits they have and the importance of carrying those arts further down the line to other generations. So that in itself, yeah, many of us find ourselves to be historians or living encyclopedias. Not me. I'm talking about the people who actually train traditional martial arts and have been doing it for a long time. They're encyclopedias of not just the information, but the knowledge, but also the history, the culture, the things that not everybody is privy to, not everybody knows. And if we keep that secret, it's going to die off. It's going to be lost, and then no one's ever going to know the reality behind them. And you see it nowadays, not just in the history aspect of it. Well, I guess it's both. It's both the history and the practice, because a lot of the practice has been lost to history. Case in point, we've talked to so many martial artists thanks to colleague conversations as well as just martial arts group. Everyone knows everyone. Somebody knows somebody. There's not that many degrees of separation between people. But even within the same art, there isn't much of a degree of separation of the people that they know, but there seems to be a big difference in the knowledge that is shared. You take one particular martial arts and you talk to one person in this area, one person from that area, one person from this area. They all practice the same thing, but when you talk about that one thing, that one exercise, that one technique, people have different interpretations of it. Some people know just the surface level. Some people know the in-depth stuff. Some people will tell you, yeah, that's not what that was intended for at all. And you have to wonder, well, which one of it is right? Which one of it is wrong? Is it even a question about right and wrong, or is it just a matter of interpretation? And we're talking about the most basic things, the stuff that people show in seminars, because we don't really show a lot of the intricate stuff or the deep-rooted stuff at seminars because, well, we just don't have the time. Some things require a longer period to fully understand and to make sense of, which is why we go to class on a regular basis, which is why we commit to an art. And we've talked about the idea of cross-training and how that can help you. But even within your own system, have you reached out to those in different lineages, different studies within that same idea? And have you gotten to open up to them about what you do, and then they open up to you? And how was that received? Was it a quick, oh, yeah, that's crap because it's not the way we do it? Or did it really change your mind on going back and looking at your art? Which one was it? Is it either of those? What actually happened in that regard if you have gone through that situation? And I only bring this up in the form of training because just recently we had a new student start in our Sunday class. And of course, we're not going to start them in the middle. We're going to start with all the basics, all the things that we've done at the beginning with all the other students to create that base knowledge. But it was just me. So we couldn't break off into different groups like we normally do when we have more than one instructor. So I had to incorporate this one new student who's on day 2 after the introduction class, so technically day 1, but still have the rest of the class be a part of it. And what came of it was very interesting because the students have been there for a while. When we end the class and ask them what did they learn, they started picking little nuances. Even though that's the basic stuff that they already know how to do well, they went back and they saw something different. And it got me thinking, okay, what has changed? And the simple reality, they did. Their ideas and their mentality, because of all the other lessons that they had behind them, have changed. And because they went back to the most basic things, the day 1 ideas and techniques or exercises in our case, they saw so much more than what they originally thought was there. And that becomes a very important tool, being able to go into your own personal history of your training, going back to the day 1 stuff, because of all the things that you have learned, all the accumulation of knowledge that you have, however long you've been training, whether it's been a year, 2, or even 25 years. When you go back to that most basic thing, your day 1 ideas, exercises, techniques, do you see something different? Not because of somebody else's ideas, but because of your own perception. And if so, if you see something different, was there something inherently wrong with the way that it was taught to you originally? Or were you just so dumb that you missed the lesson altogether? In my case, I kind of go with the latter. I feel like, holy crap, it's so obvious. How did I miss it? And maybe it isn't so much a matter of intelligence as it is you just didn't understand the lesson as well as you thought you did. So you went down this road and all of a sudden your eyes are open and you realize you missed a little of it, maybe a lot of it. And I think that's what happens when we talk to other people within the same system. We get a different perspective on the same ideas, the same movements. Ultimately, as we've said before, we have 2 hands, 2 feet. That's really the extent of it. Eventually, over time, we're going to cross and mix what we do. And really, the only thing that changes is how we get to those conclusions. Is it going to take a year, 2 years? Is it going to take 20 years to come to those realizations, to come to those epiphanies of being able to then become that much more than what we originally were or what we started off as in our training? You know, constant white belts, always learning, always evolving ourselves by going back into our history, into our own training, and looking at through the eyes of the experience you have now. And the students took away a lot of different things based on who they were as individuals. And I thought it was an interesting thing to see happen. And then thinking about my own history and the people that we've spoken to, and how many times do we come up in a situation where we thought one thing about a technique or an idea, and somebody else sheds a bit more light on it, and you realize, oh wow, this is actually a really great idea. We were just missing some of the key points that made it great. And if we don't focus on keeping those ideas alive and constantly moving forward, the secrets, the real techniques or the real ideas behind it. Because again, we've also heard stories of people deliberately keeping stuff from their students, and oftentimes just to mess with them. Yes, we've heard those stories too. But maybe it wasn't to mess with them as much as it was for them to discover it on their own, because it makes so much more impact when the student can say, I figured that out and it was correct, versus just telling somebody this is what it's for. And now that I think about it, when we tell a student this is this and this is the only way that it's used, or maybe even if you don't say that it's the only way that it's used, that's the translation that they get. Do it this way because that's how it's taught. And in their heads, they think, well, there isn't any other way. And they lose out on being able to see far more than what you first taught them. Because if we're to evolve, if we're to grow, we need to see beyond what we actually have in front of us. And then make it work for us, the individual. How do we do that? There's no right way to say or do any of these things. I leave it up to you. What works for you? What works best for how you evolve things? Have you taken the time to evolve it? And if you haven't, what are your ideas now on how to go back to the original stuff that you learned and look at them and see way more than what you originally thought was there? Thank you very much for joining me on another one of Nain's Short. Again, please look out for the seminar, Johnny Oliva Eskrima seminar in Brentwood at Twin Tiger Self-Defense Academy. Or I think, don't quote me on the name on that. I think I got it completely wrong. But it's for a good cause. It's going to help a young man continue a healthy life. So if you can, keep an eye out for that, March 16th. And until the next one, 3, 2, 1, cut!